I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform. We do a December special every year, a special presentation with our good friend and precious metals subspecialist, Adriana Reed. The topic of our December show is always focused on the coming new year and the current financial situation in the world. And frankly, every December that Adriana Reed and I do this, I think, okay, well, it's probably going to be better next December. And Dave's been wrong. Now, on some cases, some platforms we're looking at, maybe geopolitically, still big problems. Ukraine's escalating. Middle East is escalating. China, Taiwan is still there. Kim Jong-un is shooting off missiles still out of North Korea. So geopolitically, no, we're not bad. Domestically, things seem to have taken a turn. I would think for a bit toward the freedom side of the equation. Yeah, and so, but if we think that the globalist syndicate is going to walk away and just say, here's the levers of power, best of luck, we hope you do better than we did. No, that isn't going to happen. So there's going to be a lot of chaos. And my concern, and we'll discuss this with Adriana Reed, is that what the cult's going to do, the syndicate, the criminal international banking syndicate, deep state, whatever you want to call it, is actually going to try to bring the financial system to its knees, because that's what adversely affects every person of the world. And their hope is that the world population will come flocking to them, the very people who brought down the system, and say, help me, save me. Now, I cannot mention the specific operation they were involved with that is very similar, only not in the financial world, but let's call it the healthcare world. And I want you to think of, the time frame of 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, about this and this, right? They wanted you to run to them, so So they have their own financial digital that they'd like to implement, and it doesn't involve enhancing your freedom and liberty. Adriana Reed has been with the Camino companies, Camino, C-A-M-I-N-O, CaminoCompany.com, since 2011 as a trader, and she is one of the principals in that company and is one of the most honest, one of the most knowledgeable people in not just the financial world, but as I mentioned, from a subspecialty standpoint, the precious metals side of the equation. And if we look historically for 5,000 years, when financial systems wobble, when financial systems fall, what holds the test of time as far as a store of value has been nothing related to paper, nothing related to hitting keys on a keyboard, but what has stood the test of time is something you can hold. Physical gold and physical silver. And I believe this interview we're doing this December of 2024 is the most pertinent interview we've done because of where we are at this point in the financial landscape, what it looks like is coming down the road, and what the new year could well bring from a financial standpoint. It's my honor and privilege to have back with us Adriana Reed. Adriana, welcome back.
Thanks for having me again, Dave.
So Adriana, in the introduction I just gave about the financial system and the syndicate's propensity to want to cause chaos and crisis and bringing down, many people say, well, that's fear porn, Dave. That's hyperbole. So have at me. You're the expert on these situations. Am I off on that?
No, you're not off at all. So one of the things also that I feel like learning this early in life is people don't get rich on the ups, they get rich on the downs. And so therefore that means they're going to cause downs every chance that they can get, as long as it looks as natural as possible. So, in my personal opinion, you're spot on with what you're saying. And those that are prepared are, when you can buy something for pennies on the dollar, they're going to make that happen. And that's what they cause things to get really, really cheap while they stay liquid, and then they buy everything up, and then everything goes up in price. It sounds very similar to something that happened in 1933 as well. So That's what I tend to see. It's just the downs are when you see people get rich. So why would they avoid them?
Adriana, when folks watch what I call CNBS, Fox Business News,
Yeah.
Barron's, The Wall Street Journal,
Yeah.
Reuters, Bloomberg, and they say, I've been looking at the year-end prognostications and the year ahead. I've been talking to my financial broker, my financial advisor.
Yeah.
And they all tell me that I have a number of options for where I should look for having a store of value and for protecting myself financially and economically. And they're all telling me the same thing, that I should stick with things that are made of paper. I should stick with stocks. I should stick with bonds. I should stick with paper money, fiat money. I should stick in those instruments. And occasionally they tell me, well, if you really want to kind of diversify, you could always go into the crypto world.
Yeah.
And these folks say to me, but when I bring up, well, what about things like physical gold, precious metals, physical gold, physical silver? They tell me, no, that's no, don't go there. If you want to dibble or dabble in that, just buy some gold stocks or silver stocks or something of that nature. So, Adriana, that's actually the contrary argument that a number of us have made as far as from a sound money standpoint.
Right.
What do you say to those folks that are getting this advice about paper, and maybe a little crypto? What do you say to those folks?
For me, I think that there's always a place for you to make investments, and I think that brokers have their place. I'll start with that. But on the flip side of things, their job is to create you to be reliant on their job as well. That's how they keep their jobs. And so for you and yourself, as far as protecting your wealth, that's not their job. Their job is to make you money. And if they lose it, it's not their fault. So that's where you have to be careful and wary of brokers in general. And then on top of that, physical assets, as far as they go, I'm adamant about it because we saw back in 2008 how quickly a keystroke can wipe out your well-being and your livelihood. And it happened that quickly. That's why I say a keystroke. We all woke up one day and, the earth was on fire in some sense. So, having physical assets, it takes you out of the bracket of vulnerable as far as I'm concerned. And that's why we call our investments, as far as physicals go, as safe haven investments, is because you're buying something that's real. That's the other aspect of this. ETF contracts and paper contracts to me are not real because when the margin calls come, there's no backing. So therefore, it's just like having your money in cash. It's not backed by anything. And as long as the printing press gets hot, they can suppress the price of metals as much as they want, but they can't come for your physical assets.
And a way that I was brought up through my education, through my parents, they taught me that precious metals, physical precious metals, do not have debt, DEBT, associated with them. In other words, counterparty risk. You purchase them, you hold them. What they taught me, Adriana, was that stocks, bonds, treasuries, they are, money market funds that invest in treasuries to back them, they're all based on debt, DEBT. And if that debt is reneged on or diminished, then all you got yourself a problem. Now, many people say, okay, but when your parents were alive, crypto wasn't a big thing. Well, and crypto make a lot of sense, decentralization and the like, but unfortunately, from my standpoint, please correct me, when I look at crypto, the very premise of their creation was decentralization, getting away from the government.
Yeah.
Yet, Adriana, who do I see pushing this the most at this point, crypto, is the government. There have been the reports that Tether, which is kind of, if you will, a means of which you can purchase cryptos, right? So I might not buy Tether to buy cryptos, but I might go through a .com site, a crypto.com site, but they take orders, put them all together, they buy Tether, buy Bitcoin. Well, what's come out recently through analyses, through a number of different financial analysts who've gotten a lot of grief for their analysis, but it's based on numbers and data. Tether's backing itself with treasuries, with debt. So if you're using something that's purchasing cryptos, but it's based on debt, and it's based on government debt, that whole decentralization theme gets put into question, if not wiped out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm on the basis of, I think the understanding is that we think that crypto is having this moment and this huge explosion that's going to save us all. I think that's probably where I would stand as far as crypto goes. I think crypto will have a place. I don't think it's going anywhere, but I do think it has a place. But as far as what you're talking about, and I wholeheartedly agree, is I think what America and our government is making is also a very youthful, ignorant, and egotistical mistake, is probably what I would say, by backing with crypto. Because we've seen the sovereign countries, they're accumulating precious metals rapidly, but they also have 2,000 years of history under their belts also. So they've been through the cycles of failure. And so now they're resorting back to what works, and they're buying physical assets as far as it goes with precious metals.
So we have China, we have Russia, we have India, we have Turkey, we have Malaysia, we have dozens of countries, as you say, that are purchasing gold, physical gold and physical silver, and keeping it in their own premises, not outsourcing it like they had done in the past. For example, United States, you hold it for us. When Germany had trouble getting their gold back a number of years ago, it opened the eyes wide open, of many countries. Said, right? And we also have central banks in these countries buying physical gold, physical silver for themselves.
Right.
We have China recommending to its citizens, buy gold and buy silver.
Right.
Yet here, we don't have that. We actually almost have a push, and I can say this comfortably. We have a new administration coming in, and the person who helped run the transition team, this Howard Lutnick, who runs a financial entity by the name of Cantor Fitzgerald, he's been named Commerce Secretary. Well, he also Cantor Fitzgerald just happens to own 5% of Tether that's involved in cryptos. So there's some implicit suggestion to folks, you're going to be okay here in the crypto world, because, Howard's and his company, they're involved. And I don't see our government saying the same thing I hear China's government saying to their own people about physical precious metals. And the question I have for you is, why is that?
I think that it's on the basis of control, is probably what I would say. I hate to say it that way, unfortunately. But, you keep it on a wallet, you keep it in an exchange, you keep it going, and you keep the 1% getting rich. I don't think there's any other way to really put it. When you're putting your money into assets that other individuals have are tied to, then you should start questioning why you're doing it. If it's not for their own personal benefit, and it's not for your own personal benefit to hold. I always tell people, when you're investing, just remember that, there's 5% of the country that is 10 years ahead of everybody else because of the insider information that they get that you will never have privy to. And if you function that way, you can in some ways beat them at their system, but it doesn't necessarily mean do what they do. That's not the key to all of this. The key is to establishing as much independence financially, enough liberty and independence across the board, to be frank. And then that's going to always be the best way to go. But like I said, I'm not 100% convinced that cryptos are the best way or the route that America should take in order for us to truly win the battle against economic freedom.
And my concern on that front is the following as well. Cryptos can be great. Okay, great. However, to buy cryptos and to sell cryptos, you have to go through a trading platform.
Correct.
Well,
an exchange.
Yeah, and didn't we see with this Sam Bankman-Fried and the whole exchange? And there's some questions about several others that are being investigated about. Yeah. See, to me, that's the real rate limiting step. That's where you can do all the right moves.
Yeah.
But if your trading platform is shot that you can use, you're stuck.
Absolutely. 1,000%. 1,000%.
So just this week, you mentioned sovereign nations. China came out and said, it's been said that we're not buying gold. No, actually, we're enhancing our purchases of gold and have been. And then they just put out the Chinese government put out their industrial silver plan for 2025. So this is just China. This is just 2025 coming up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
They expect their demand to be an incredible 12,000 metric tons just for them, just for 2025. 12,000. That's 423 million ounces, or more than half of all of the world's global mine supply. Now, basic supply demand.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
If that's the demand.
Yeah.
And there's such a huge amount of more than half just from one buyer.
Yeah.
Those that have been involved in the manipulation of these markets are in big trouble, because we also see the Shanghai Exchange, a purely physical exchange, now competing with the paper exchange in the United States of COMEX and the semi-paper, semi-physical exchange in London.
Yeah, yeah. Especially one of the things that I want to address with the statement that you just made was also China's referring to silver as an industrial metal. And that's actually pretty key, because they're letting you know what they're doing ahead of their move itself. So when they're purchasing silver, we are starting to find that silver can be used in tech very heavily. It can be used in a lot of different fields as far as science goes, as far as tech goes, and more. And so what you'll tend to find is that's how you get a lot of overuse in an industrial metal. When it hits the market. I know that Samsung has introduced a battery that is silver based, and it charges faster than most batteries that have ever been made. And so we're seeing that. So I think that China, what they're doing is they're basically making sure that they have as much as they possibly can, because the markets have been suppressed for so long. Silver is cheap. There's no other way to explain it. And so by accumulating ounces, they're prepping their country for what's to come. And that's when I think we could see a major market spike, if things come to fruition.
So Camino has been around for 30 plus years. You have been a principal in the companies for coming up on 14 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you do a survey over the past 14 years and you look at where we are now, snapshot. So we got a movie and then we got a snapshot. So right now, you have folks that purchase smaller amounts when they call.
Yeah.
And you have people that purchase large amounts.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, let's do a snapshot. Snapshot. The smaller purchases versus the larger purchases. In other words, what I'm asking you, what are the big boys and big girls financially, let's call it that, doing compared to the small fries, like somebody like me?
Right. So what we're seeing more is there's lots of big players are starting to come back into those safe haven investments, including precious metals. Lots of individuals buying for just their families. And we're talking 6-figure to 7-figure purchases that are being made. And what I tend to see less and less, and this is how I know that they're lying about the economy and the numbers, is we see less orders that are ranging anywhere between the $2,000 to $20,000 orders. Those are down. I shouldn't say they're done. They're down from what we've seen in the past. Now, what that tells me is the middle class is getting hit hard by inflation. Mm-hmm. And that the economic growth is not there. And as you and I talked about, we are experiencing stagflation. It's just not being acknowledged because we're falsifying numbers that are being reported through the government, like you and I talked about on the show on Sunday about the jobs report itself. And so that's where I think that it really kind of shows this explanation of what's going on. And it also goes to show that there's people who understand markets that are buying in large sums, and they're in prep mode. And when they head into prep mode, that's where I believe that people should do the same. When I say don't follow somebody else's investment, I say the high risk investments are the ones that you really need to watch out for, right, especially when we're having these types of things happening, where we have a change of administration that differs extremely in ideology. And then we're going into a new administration. We have a global crisis basically happening. World War III is borderline on our doorstep as we speak. Every day we wake up and there's escalation from, Israel to Syria to, Ukraine. Everybody seems to starting to get involved in this mess. And so, when you see those types of things happen, I think that's when you should start preparing yourself, and don't go towards high risk would be my recommendation, is just prep. Now, when I say prep, I'm not saying take everything you have and put it in precious metals. Right. I never encourage anyone to do that. I believe that you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket ever. I do believe, though, that you should have somewhere around 10 to 20% of one's net wealth would be very safe in a pocket if it was in precious metals. And then that way you can prepare your family. What we were talking about with cryptos, with stocks, all of these things, my rule of thumb, if it can hit zero or it's based on debt, then you're not in a good place. You always want to prep with things that have held value throughout 2,000, 5,000 years of history. And that's where precious metals step in.
Precious metals can be seen as a financial insurance policy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
An insurance policy against financial upheaval, a financial insurance policy against inflation.
Absolutely. The difference is when you buy this insurance policy, in my book, is I can avoid car accidents. I'm not always going to guarantee that I'm going to be in a car accident. What I can guarantee is there will be another recession. There will be another downfall. There will be another stock market crash. Those things are all going to happen at least once, twice, 3, 4 times in our lifetime, if not more. And so that's why we can go back. We can go to 2008. We can go to the .com. We can go to 87. We can go to 29. They all were caused. They were not by accident.
One of the issues that you've spoken about over a period of time and has been right on the target has been our escalating debt, DEBT, right?
Yeah.
So this past year, fiscal year, our deficit just for the 1 year was 1.83 trillion with a T, trillion dollars. We now have a federal deficit. We add all the yearly deficits up. Our national debt is 36 trillion with a T, trillion dollars, and growing. About $1 trillion every 90 days.
Yes.
Now that doesn't include the unfunded mandates. Some people believe that could add up to about 200 trillion total dollars in debt, DEBT. So right now, the interest expense on that debt is over $1 trillion. It's now gone to number 2 in what we spend every year in the United States through the government,
Correct.
right? The first one being Medicare and Social Security, which is at, I think, 1.4 trillion.
Yeah.
But now this is over 1 trillion. This is more than defense spending.
Mm-hmm.
So, Adriana, and tell me if I'm off on this, but there's 3 ways to get out of debt, whether it's personal or whether it's a federal debt. You can grow your way out of it.
Right.
You can default your way out of it. Where you just say, no, we're not going to pay on those amounts. Or you can, if you have the ability to create your own money,
Yeah.
you can create funny money. Essentially monopoly money, depreciate the value of the dollar and pay off the debt in funny money.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's no way to grow out of $36 trillion of debt.
Impossible.
I doubt very seriously if we could default on our debt, because the United States would be a smoldering ruin of nothing. Because if you just said, our debt's no good, we're walking away from it. Which leaves us with the only other option, where they inflate it away.
Correct.
Well, in times of inflation, what does the best?
Precious metals always win.
Right. I mean, it's that. Am I making this too simple?
No, the fact is it is just that simple. And especially if we go back, we can go back to 2000. Let's start in 2000. We can even leave the 1900s out of this. 2000, we've seen this extreme climb in debt is really where it all started. When we started heading into all these unnecessary wars and we started spending money rapidly. And then, just like you said, they realized that they can create this Ponzi scheme style where they pay with money that is made, and then you just keep it cycling. The problem I have with all this is, who does this mess fall on? You go to the gas pump. I go to the gas pump. Mm-hmm. You go to the grocery store. I go to the grocery store. I have 4 children that I have to put food on the table for. Mm-hmm. And there's families right now who are making these strong decisions to say, hey, we can't do this, so we can afford this. When I say this, they're trying to afford food.
Right.
They're trying to afford gas to make sure they can get to work. Mm-hmm. And we see the suffering. A statistic came out yesterday. Car repos are up 35%, which means that people can't even make their car payments. While we have an administration in its last leg telling us the economy is fantastic, don't worry about it.
Right.
You know, and you and I see it firsthand. And that's the problem with the separation of how individuals live. Those that are not on the ground will never understand what we go through as Americans. We're spending money on wars that are senseless, have nothing to do with us. Ron Paul has said it best, that we police the entire world and we have to stop. It is not our job. It is our job to control what happens at our borders. It's our job to make sure that American citizens can put food on the table. It's our job to make sure that our schools are safe, that we live in safe communities, that we have import-exports that make sense and are logical, to make sure that we don't get involved with all of these bad players that are all across the world. It is not our job, and it's our time to take care of America first, and putting America first is the only way that we will win as a country.
We have to stop the abandonment.
Yes.
The American public has been abandoned on almost every front.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've seen it, especially these past 5 years, in my opinion.
I agree.
And when we say abandon, what you deserve as a U.S. citizen is free will that's protected by our Constitution. It's the ability to live the American dream, which is that you wake up, and if you work hard and you put your mind to it, you can be prosperous in this country. And by the debt that they have racked up, they are setting families up for failure, and it's on purpose. And that's where you have to understand that inflation is not by accident. All it takes is a 10-year-old who can run numbers. And it's that, like you said, it is unfortunately that simple. And what they do is they talk in roundabouts to make it seem like this very complex thing. When we see Jerome Powell get on the screen, he says, you know, hey, we have to balance the sheets. What is there to balance? Stop printing money. Let's start there, and then we can start getting back to something that is logical, has common sense, and then we can start fixing our country, because our country is on the precipice financially of failing if we don't start making some severe changes.
And so, Adriana, many people who contact me say, I keep being told that when I bring up precious metals, physical gold, physical silver, that it's difficult to buy, that it's difficult to sell, that that you just don't go there. Well, let's talk about this, because especially for this coming year, the new year, the present and the immediate future, with the system in harm's way financially, and wobbling, folks need to protect themselves.
Absolutely.
And so I take us through, because the way Camino does it, it's very transparent, and the buyer and the seller are very accountable. Unfortunately, when you look at some other organizations that sell, right, it's not transparent, and it's the buyer is accountable to send the money, but the seller, from what I've heard from some other folks that listen to their Uncle Louie, who went through somebody they know to buy, not Camino, it was not, no, the seller wasn't accountable. So the way you folks do it is very upfront. I want people to know. So if they're going to listen to their Uncle Louie, and not go to Camino, which I think would be a mistake, but let's say they listen to their Uncle Louie and they go through Uncle Louie's friend. Talk about how it should be done, how Camino does it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we keep the process simple. I've always learned that way. The main thing is with all the items that we sell, this is one of the key things, is that it's going to be the closest to the spot price that you can buy. And that's what you want to obtain. You want to obtain the most ounces in every purchase that you make. You don't want to buy something that, like you said, Uncle Louie said, hey, buy this because this is going to go up exponentially. Right. My job is not to make you rich. My job is to sustain your wealth that you've worked your life for. And that's what we're adamant about doing. You give us a call. You can talk to us directly. I answer the phones all day long. You can talk to me directly. You can also head to our website. Once you make the purchase, you lock in the price at that time. The prices are set, so you send payment, and we send you physical precious metals. It is literally that simple.
Now, so now the website is CaminoCompany.com, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, phone. You mentioned a phone number. People can call by phone.
Yes. You can reach us at 800-348-8001.
Now, you also people can order online.
Yes, you can. We do have a full storefront at CaminoCompany.com where you can order, and prices change with the spot price actively. Okay.
And then you mentioned people can email you.
Yes. You can.
How do they do that?
Adriana, Adriana, at CaminoCompany.com, and we can set up a phone call. And we can take the time to communicate what works best for you. Especially right now, I am adamant about people having both types of precious metals on hand, gold and silver. I like gold because I think you can get a lot of wealth off the books and into your own hands very easily because the price has climbed so significantly. It's actually now officially at $1,400, I believe. It's over doubled since you and I started our first video, Dave. And then on the flip side of things, the reason I want you to have silver on hand is there's multiple reasons. Is number one, I think that what China's doing is kind of a tell-all as to what's to come. That's number one. Number two, I hate to even say this, but I pray to God that America doesn't have these issues. But if you had to use something for purchase power, silver will always be there for you. We saw it happen with Venezuela. Every country that has fallen has turned to precious metals as their payment system, because if you think you're going to be able to swipe your credit card with the grid down, it's not going to happen, and cash is not going to be an option. So when you need to head over to the neighbors to buy food or, if they have cows or whatever it may be, you want to have those conversations, just prepare, be ready to go and have silver on hand so that you have something to pay for.
I remember the first call I ever had with Camino. My dad had purchased through Camino.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he passed in the early 2000s. And must have been maybe 5-6 months after he passed. I called, and Bert, who started Camino, Bert answered the phone.
Yeah.
And my dad had dealt with Camino, but I spoke to Bert, and he said, so the price per ounce of gold, if I remember correctly, was about $330, $340 an ounce right now.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's $2,700. Right, $2,700.
Yep.
It was 300 some. And he said, so why are you doing this? And I said, well, my dad, who had used Camino in the past, passed away recently. And I said to Bert, I know this sounds weird, but recently I've been hearing him saying, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Buddy, do what's right and start buying gold and silver, will you?
Yeah.
And I told it to Bert, and he laughed a little bit, and he goes, well, it does sound like your dad. But the point is that was in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And it was $300 some an ounce gold.
Yeah.
I think silver was, I don't know what it was, like $5 an ounce?
$4 to $5 an ounce, absolutely. Yeah.
So you can have people, this is what really kind of gets me a bit upset. No, more than a bit upset. A lot upset, where people go, well, they just don't appreciate. They're barbarous relics. I mean, you heard Bernanke, the former head of the Fed, saying this. These are people who are not looking out for people's best interests. And as my dad used to tell me, if you don't believe that inflation is going to be a problem, if you believe the government will handle the economy well, and in particular, this group of independent bankers that's not part of the government, that's called the Fed, that are only looking out for themselves, that's driven the value of the dollar. When he passed, I think they had driven the value of the dollar down about 90%. Well, now it's 99% since he died. Yeah. He said, if you believe they're going to do what's right for you, just keep doing that paper stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, what I learned from Bert in my time dealing with Bert myself, he was a genuine libertarian who just understood the financial markets, and understood that probably, I mean, to this day, the Fed is the biggest criminal organization to ever come to human fruition. And he stood on that, and I stand on that too, because like I said, you can see suffering caused by economic reliance. They want you on welfare. They want you to come and say, hey, help me out, I don't know what to do.
They want you dependent.
They do. And the dependency was not what this country was made on. And so that's where we have to go back and dig deep. And at times it may seem a little odd or off, or, I tell people, we're not the sexy investment. I'm not trying to be sexy. I'm trying to make sure that you are in preservation of what you've accomplished. And I feel like Bert instilled that in me, because we are up against a very big fish. And if we work together as an American population, we can take them down.
And you mentioned Ron Paul earlier in our conversation today.
Yeah.
Bert was really tell me if I'm wrong, Bert was really responsible for educating Ron Paul.
Bert and Ron were very, very good friends, yes. And they both had a lot of involvement in the Mises Institute. Bert was very adamant with the Austrian economics and ran the same ideologies as Ron did, actually to the point that when Bert passed away back in 2008, Ron Paul did a speech to Congress about a great man passing away. And I think Bert had a strong influence on everyone that he had a conversation with. I mean, you didn't have to meet him face to face to feel his charisma and his adamancy about what he was doing to help people.
You know, Adriana, what sets Camino apart from any other company I'm aware of is that many people are strapped right now financially. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
And it's very understandable. All you have to do is look at the fake unemployment numbers where they blow them up, or this or that, or the economy, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But many people say, I can't afford an ounce of gold because it's $2,700 plus premiums. And by the way, your premiums are by far the lowest of anyone in the country, if not the world.
Yeah.
Point of fact. That's what people pay above the spot price.
Yes.
And you do that to make it more affordable for people, both on gold and silver. And I commend you for that, because you don't have to do that, but you do. But folks say, well, I do have enough to buy 10 ounces of silver. But I'm not going to call because they're not going to take that order. Well, many places don't.
Right.
But you in Camino, there is no minimum, is there?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And to me, everyone deserves a seat at the table. I don't care if you can spend $20. I don't care if you can spend $5 million. If you spend $5 million, I will treat you the same way as I treat the person who spends $20.
That's right.
You will get the same amount of time that I will give anyone. Because $20 to someone could be $5 million to another person. And that's where everyone's going to get the same treatment.
And as we see this manipulation operation resolved around silver, because it's the most manipulated commodity on the planet, I believe. Once that manipulation lid is removed, for example, the gold silver ratio, it's 80 ounces of silver, 80 plus per 1 ounce of gold. But it comes out of the earth at roughly 12 to 1. Some people say 8 to 1. 8 ounces of silver to 1. So what's kept that ratio way high, has been this criminal manipulation. Once that's removed, it's safe to say I think it's going to go back where God created it.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
And that, what some people might say is, well, that 10 ounce investment in silver could actually end up being life-saving.
Yes, without a doubt. You can only bet on yourself and the things that are happening. Yeah. And your spending capability may just be an ounce of silver a month. That may be what's affordable to you and your family. Mm-hmm. I'm also adamant about spending within your means. So that's why when you give us a call, that may be your means, and that's what works for you. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. But what I see coming is, eventually everything that is in the dark is going to come to the light. It always does. Mm-hmm. I tell my kids the same thing. Our number one rule in our house is don't lie, because you're going to get caught.
Right.
And just like all these liars that run the country, just like all these liars that run, these markets and are lying to us about silver and jobs reports, is their day is coming. And so, prepare, because it's like you said, when the top comes off, it's going to skyrocket at that point, and there's nothing anybody will be able to do to stop it. And on top of that, if you think that China and all these countries are buying this massive amounts of precious metals to have their wealth just chopped in half, Absolutely not.
Well, and if China's telling its billions of citizens to buy, if you can't buy gold, buy silver.
Buy silver.
Well, why are they doing that? Because they know what's coming. And they know that if they tell their population ahead of time to buy it, and they do,
yes,
there's going to be less chance of unrest.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Which brings me to a question I've asked you before, but it bears repeating.
Yes.
The single greatest mistake people can make when it comes to precious metals.
I'll buy it another day. I'll just wait. Or I'm not ready to buy it. Or I don't want to get out yet. I'm not ready. And what happens is those people, if you hang on just a little bit longer, you know, I wake up every day and something new has happened.
Yes. And it's not good. It's not good. No.
It's not good, Dave. It's not good.
It's not.
You know, and we're in those times, unfortunately, where we wake up every day and it's not good. And, you know, having precious metals on hand will take away some of the angst that you feel with the unrest and the not good going on. And it will have you prepared. So like you and I talk about, I sleep fine at night.
Yeah.
You sleep fine at night. And we have our wealth backed by precious metals, and I know that, and I feel good about that. And I don't worry about my family's financial well-being because of it.
Somebody asked me the other day, "Hey, Dave, you sleep well. You've never." Some family member said, "You sleep well." I mean, what? Because like a lot of people in our family don't sleep well. You sleep fine. Why is it? I go, 2 reasons. 1, nutritional supplements, the right nutritional supplements, and 2, owning gold and silver.
Yeah.
I never wake up in the middle of the night and worry about something financially. And it's because of the bedrock of having gold and silver. Physical gold and silver.
Right.
Now, many of our viewers say, I have some discretionary funds.
Yeah.
But my discretionary funds are in an IRA.
Yeah.
Okay. And they say, I've talked to my where I have my IRA, and they tell me that I cannot buy physical gold and physical silver. 1, is that correct? And 2, if it's not correct, what can people do?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is not true. You may not be able to with their company is what I would say. So we can set you up to get you in a self-directed IRA where we would roll over your 401k or your IRA, traditional Roth, it doesn't matter. We can do a rollover where you can purchase physical precious metals. Now, the upside to this is I tell people is, would you rather the keystroke option or the, hey, they may seize my assets option? I would take seizing my assets any day of the week because I can have backing to that and I can come back at them if that were to happen. But the keystroke, we don't have answers for keystrokes these days. You can't take possession of the assets itself.
In an IRA.
Correct. They are shipped to a depository for holding that is on the basis of the company that you choose has their different depositories that they would pick that we would ship to. I just recommend you pick the one that's either the most logical for you, which is the closest to you, or the one that you just feel the most comfortable with would be what I would say. But it's absolutely not true. And I have converted thousands and thousands of IRAs in my time working with Camino. So it's
so people could call and say, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
So you can give people some background on companies that can make it, they could shift their IRA into a self-directed IRA, and then those that then take it and you can purchase and then put in a depository, and you have some suggestions, if you will, based on experience on depositories.
Exactly. Yes.
And wait, now this is important. And you don't have a financial relationship with any of these IRA companies or depositories.
I do not. So one of the things
that's
that I do,
that's important to know.
It
Right.
is not my company.
Yeah.
I work with them.
Yeah.
Now, I will give you options, but I will ask you to do your research on them yourself, because I don't have the inside to that company. I just know that I've worked with them.
Now, Adriana, when people buy physical gold and
Yes.
physical silver,
Yes.
what options do they have? Because people say, I can't afford a gold bar, and I don't want a gold bar. To me, that's, and I get that. I'm in that camp. I'm not a big gold bar person. So,
Right.
so what can people buy physical gold wise and physical silver wise? What are their options?
Yeah, so there's tons of options across the board. We have American Gold Eagles, Maple Leafs, Cougarans, Kangaroos. We have pandas. We have, you name it. From most countries, we have almost every coin. We also carry pre-1933 gold as well, if that's something you wanted to get into. I do find European pre-33 gold is actually a really great way. Speaking of Bert, Bert always taught me that it was a great way to buy fractional gold at a low premium. So that's also a really good option if you want to talk about that too. You can also, if you did want to head into bars, they're not my number one recommendation as far as it goes. I probably would say stick with coins, but if you did want to do bars, we do carry 1 ounce bars, 10 ounce bars, and kilo bars. If you also need some spending capability, where you have, maybe $500 to spend, we also have grams, 5 grams, 10 grams, 20 grams, so that you can use that as well. That's another great option. On the silver side of things, I'm always adamant about low premium stuff. The government issued stuff is obviously going to carry higher premiums. So we're talking our silver Maple Leafs, silver Eagles, silver Cougarans, silver Kangaroos, anything that's manufactured by governments. We also have Mexican onzas is also become a very hot item these days. Then you can also head into privatized purchases. Now, these are going to be 1 ounce generic rounds that are privately minted. They are required by law to be 3/9 fine silver to weigh exactly 1 troy ounce. Those are a great option for purchase power. Then you can also head into 5 ounce bars, 10 ounce bars, and 100 ounce bars. But my personal recommendation is to always have some of the smaller stuff on hand. Like I said, make that safety kit that you would need if the time came. But if you wanted to do a very, more mass wealth, then you probably would want to head up to the 100 ounce bars. I tell people it's kind of like shopping at Costco, the discounts, you buy in bulk, you get a discount kind of thing. So that can be an option as well. The last thing also that I think is really, really great, and we're seeing premiums are somewhat, level for the most part, is the 90% junk silver. So before 1964, calves, quarters, and dimes only. These are going to be items that would be really great to have on hand. The other thing about the 90% silver, it's the one item that we cannot make more of because it was made before 64. So when we see that run up and dry up, then we know that it's the premiums can climb quite heavily on those. So it's good to buy it while things are kind of at bay and at peace a little bit, because the premiums will be lower on that item itself.
Give us the contact information for you and Camino again, Adriana.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can reach us at 800-348-8001, or you can also reach us at CaminoCompany.com. There's a contact us if you want to reach us there, or you can also email me directly at adriana@CaminoCompany.com. And we're open 8:30 to 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. 8:30 to 4 Pacific time. So East Coast time, that's 11:30 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yes.
And I'd like to thank you and everybody at Camino for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. You get grief for helping people. You take a lot of time helping people. And very few companies in this day and age do that. And very few people within companies do that. And I really want to thank you, because you have truly created a lifeboat for every person and their financial security and financial future, especially in this day and age when you have a syndicate that is going to have to relieve themselves of some power, but they probably want to make things much more difficult, as we've outlined earlier. And I thank you, Adriana, for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. And I thank you folks for joining us. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.